in Edmonton, I sat down and spoke to Cole Caufield about his season, and hitting the 20 goal mark. Um, uh, a milestone he referred to as his basement.
Yeah.
So not just a floor, a basement, meaning he has not reached his floor yet. So he's not thrilled with his goal production. He got an assist last night in the game, giving him, what was it? It's actually he and Suzuki both assisted on Caden Gooley's goal, which was originally given to Juraj Slavkovsky. So I guess Suzuki gets the assist as a result of Slavkovsky being taken off the goal. But that was Nick Suzuki's 38th assist of the season. Cole Caufield has 35. He's catching up to him. Meanwhile, Nick Suzuki on a 2-on-1 has Cole Caufield coming down on his one-timer side, has a lane to pass it to him, a brief one, but there was a window there where Nick Suzuki could have got him the puck, and I think the Nick Suzuki of the past most definitely would have got him the puck in that situation. And he looked him off, kept the puck, wired one, top corner, and scored. Now that goal, aside from being his 28th of the season, every goal Nick Suzuki scores from now on will be a career high. But since the All-Star break, so since February 4th, roughly, 6
Right.
weeks, a 6 week span, Nick Suzuki is tied for 7th in the NHL in goals with 15. He's one behind William Nylander. He's one behind Braden Point. He has one more than Sebastian Aho. He's tied with Philip Forsberg. I mean, he has one more than Leon Draisaitl, two more than Artemi Panarin. It's really crazy how while Cole Caufield is kind of struggling to find his goal scoring mojo, Nick Suzuki has basically turned into Cole Caufield. He has 15 goals and 9 assists. He has 15 goals and 9 assists since the All-Star break, which doesn't put him very high on the points ladder. He's all the way down and he's tied for 22nd. Tied with Jack Hughes. So it's not as if he's in bad company, but still tied for 22nd, much higher in the goal ladder. So I just find that it's a really unexpected, kind of fascinating development this season that I really didn't see coming. And I thought that play encapsulated it,
Absolutely. I mean, you're right. In the past, he would have passed it to Caufield because that lane was open, and it was open long enough that, as good a passer as he is, he would have, he would have found Caufield's stick, and Caufield was ready to trigger. It was all set up for the one-timer, and I gave very little chance to Philip Grubauer to make a save on either shot. And actually, the fact that once there was a second back checker that put his stick and basically closed the lane. So at that point, when Suzuki chose to, hold on to the puck, it was a tell that he would shoot. And despite the fact that Grubauer must have thought at that point, in that split second, that Suzuki would try to beat him, still, Suzuki did that. Short side, top corner. It was impressive shot. Very, very precise. And, it's funny because you mentioned that since the All-Star break, let's not forget that at the All-Star break, the Canadiens traded Sean Monahan. And what did we say back then? That there would be even more pressure on that first line to produce because Monahan was not there to participate in some secondary scoring, making sure that the Canadiens would have a potent second line. So there's been added pressure put on Suzuki and his whole line to carry the offense. And those numbers suggest that Suzuki definitely did. I mean, even before it has started before that, he's at more than a point per game for the past 29 games. He scored 32 points. So if he keeps that pace, he's got an outside chance of hitting 80. Right now, he's 14 shy with 12 games to go. So, but he's
matching his season total from last year, by the way.
Exactly, yeah. So it's all gravy from this point on. But he's likely to have the second best Canadiens season. The second best season by Canadiens forward in this century, trailing only Alex Kovalev, who had scored 84 points in the 2007-2008 season. So not too shabby. Not too shabby.
No, not too shabby at all. And that's this also the whole context being that Nick Suzuki entered the year with you and I and many people questioning or wondering if he'd already hit his offensive ceiling, if this was it, if this what we saw last season and what we, if this was the end of his offensive growth. And he's really, since roughly mid-December or so, which I think corresponds roughly with the 29 game sample you're referring to, um, has really taken, I guess, offense to that. It's just like he
Mm-hmm.
really seems to want to show that no, I'm not done growing offensively, um, and going back to then when he was talking about his OGP, right, offense generating plays,
Yeah.
and how he's really focused on that um, more than his points. I wonder the extent to which that has influenced his decision making when it comes to shooting the puck. That play again, a perfect example. Like I am positive that Nick Suzuki last season passes that puck. And I wonder if some of the data that he looks at made him realize that, excuse me, made him realize that the area of the ice that he was in with the puck, combined with the risk of losing the puck if you were to pass it to Caufield, if it were to get broken up somehow or what have you, that the highest percentage play in that situation was him actually shooting it. And I I wonder if and he's spoken in the past, he's spoken this season about the struggle, his own struggle of that decision. When should I shoot? When should I kind of turn off my playmaking instincts and realize that I'm a dangerous shooter myself?
Yeah.
And he seems to have figured that out. Like he really has. Like 15 goals in 21 games since the All-Star break is not nothing. I mean, it's not a very sustainable pace. He's shooting 30.6% in that span, which obviously you can't do for a whole season, but pretty good. And I really do think like his way of seeing the game and his way of determining his own, like his most dangerous self as being not just a one-dimensional playmaker. And when he was talking about Caufield, how he's become a dual threat and how he's become harder to defend because of his playmaking ability being expanded. Um, that same span since the All-Star break, Cole Caufield has 13 assists in 21 games. Like,
Yeah, that's pretty good too.
not something we're used to. So it's made him a more well-rounded player, but it's really made Nick Suzuki a more well-rounded player too, because just like in any sport really, but like the one I always equate to is basketball. If everyone knows you're not going to shoot the ball or the puck, they defend you differently. They will defend the pass, and if you keep insisting on making it, then you're just going to lose the puck more often than not. Whereas when you're a shooter, or they know that you're a shooting threat, it opens up those passes. And so I think this is going to balance out at some point for Suzuki, and his like natural playmaking instincts will take over again. But the league knowing that he is a more than willing shooter now is going to make his passing game that much better probably next season.
But he doesn't shoot a whole lot more than before. I mean, his average like per game is the same as it was 2 years ago. It's slightly up from what it was last year, but it's the same as 2 years ago. I think that it's more like in the choices he makes and the positions that he put
Absolutely.
himself in. So
Mm-hmm.
because he's got a dangerous shot, his wrister is surgical, and I think at this point it's definitely not a question of being a volume shooter, but making sure that you're going to be dangerous enough that double threat you're talking about, he's going to put himself in a situation where either he passes or he shoots. He's going to recognize what's the best option between the two, and he's not going to defer. And having
Mm-hmm.
Caufield becoming also a dual threat makes it so that this duo, as even more as they grow their game together, and they add options to their game together in the same line, I think it's going to elevate their chemistry to even another level next year. I don't know if Slavkovsky will still be with them next year or if they'll put him back with Kirby Doc. But whoever's going to be completing that line is going to have two guys that really have figured out something to how to maximize the way that they can be dangerous together at 5-on-5. Because it's really not just one dimensional. It comes from different angles, a variety of plays. And I think that the development of Caufield as a passer has probably even more to do with it than just Suzuki's shooting, because this is probably the most A, unexpected, and B, fast progression or development in those two guys' offensive game. The fact that Caufield went from a guy who was strictly a shooter up until the beginning of this season to now being an equally dangerous disher, and it happened in the span of 50, 60 games. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and again, to your point, it's not as if Cole Caufield's shooting tendencies have changed either. He, since the All-Star break, is averaging over 4 shots on goal per game. He has 89 shots on goal in 21 games and has scored 3 goals. He's shooting 3.4% since the All-Star break. His season-long shooting percentage, last I checked, was in the 7s. I think he's not happy about it. He can see the forest for the trees, though. He can see the benefits to him as an NHL player. What Marty's always talked about is that he's not going to teach him how to score goals, but he can teach him how to be a better hockey player. Well, we've seen that, but it's clear that the lack of goals and the low shooting percentage is something that the Canadians need to look at. And I think we talked about this in the past, and Ken Hughes brought it up, I think at mid-season when he was talking about Cole Caufield's shooting percentage. Like, why is it so low? Is there anything happening there that we need to look at? And so that's something to be investigated. But I agree that I think in the long run, Cole Caufield's going to score a lot of goals next season. I'm pretty sure of it. He'll probably go on a run at some point over the last dozen games here. And while we're on the subject of how players are doing since the All-Star break, Juraj Slavkovsky now has 19 points in 21 games. He's almost a point a game for a quarter of the season. Like, it's not negligible.
And he's
either.
not just riding their coattails either. He's
no. He's a play driver. He drives possession, I should say. He doesn't really drive. He maintains possession in a very significant way and extends zone time and creates other opportunities for Suzuki and Caufield to play in the offensive zone and create scoring opportunities. And it's crazy to me that, he extended his point streak to 7 games last night with a second assist, despite not getting the goal that was originally credited to him.
Right. Yeah.
And it's really remarkable how quickly that's become the norm. Like, he has a 7-game point streak. It's barely even getting mentioned. Like, it's not even really that big of a talking point, right? It's just like, oh, la-di-da. He has points in 7 straight games. He's 19 and whatever. It's
yeah, but he's not the one to nurture that sort of conversation, though, because he wants to keep it about the team.